losing control. I'm seeing red. Watch you rise, watch you fall. Now I'm about to break. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. What's going on this week, Ben?
Conor McGregor is what's going on, dude. Obviously, we're going to talk all about that, but not a lot going on my end. But I feel like the MMA world, just like I had always kind of been doubting lately, at least Conor McGregor's like power to matter. And here he fucking lost, and it's still like the MMA world is still buzzing talking about Conor McGregor. So I feel like that's what's going on mostly.
Yeah, he matters in a big way still. There's a lot to break down from this UFC 264 card. I gotta say, man, the card was pretty freaking awesome from top to bottom. I thought there was high drama all the way from Salgas Zumagulov's nasty guillotine choke all the way through the Dustin and Conor fight. Early reports, it looks like the fight sold 1.8 million buys, which I believe ranks number 2 all time for UFC pay-per-views behind Conor versus Khabib. I guess my first question is, are you surprised that it sold that well?
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about like last week, and like I just alluded to it, like it feels like, his influence, Conor McGregor's influence and selling power is slipping a little bit. But obviously not. 1.8 is fantastic. I feel like the timing was right? There's no sports fatigue because we're not in the middle of the football season. The All-Star break in baseball is coming up. People are a little tired of baseball at this point. Like, I know the NBA finals are happening right now, but I feel like the timing, like in the year, was just right for this pay-per-view. And also, like, credit to Dustin Poirier. And I think there's some credit deserved to the UFC for making this fight. I think they know rematches typically sell really well. And when you have a rematch of a fight that was already big, like, I don't know how much did McGregor Poirier 1 do? Like 1.6, I think.
Yeah, I want to say 1.4 or 1.6, somewhere around there.
So that's already a massive pay-per-view in its own right. You're going to just build on that audience. And I do feel like their first fight was super fun, or their second fight, rather, their first rematch was super fun. So I think a lot of people tuned in expecting another really fun fight. And, this was fun as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it delivered. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see 1.8, especially like, nowadays times, people find ways to get the pay-per-views, maybe the interest is there. But again, it is Conor McGregor. Like you said, I think they did build this rematch up well. I think Dustin was the perfect foil for Conor. Well, let's talk about the actual fight, man. Actually, let me get your opinion before we talk about the fight about dude, I thought it was very weird. And again, this all kind of changed once the fight happened, but like the way that Conor was acting, it just seemed so forced, and it seemed so almost like corny, right? Because like I kind of like, when Conor was on his come up, he was so like he was brash, but it was so
genuine.
Genuine, yeah. And then when he fought Cowboy and Dustin in the rematch, it seemed like he was almost mature. He was humble. And dude, honestly, I kind of like that. I didn't need like the whole brashness. But then this fight, like out of nowhere, it's like I guess maybe there was some deep down hatred, and then obviously, all the bullshit with the charity. But then it seemed like Conor, he was just like, it almost seemed lame. It seemed forced. It seemed corny. And I was almost like, I don't want to say turned off to the fight, but it was just very weird to me. Then obviously when the fight came, it all changed. I was super into it. But what did you think about the trash talk and obviously leading through the fight? Now it's still blown way out of proportion.
I think you make a really good point, and I tend to agree with you that what made McGregor so popular on the come up, or the come up, like his early when he beat Aldo, for example, that version of McGregor, there was like an underlying nastiness for sure to his trash talk. For sure. There's always been a meanness. He's not always been a nice guy, but I do think he felt much more genuine. He wasn't forcing the meanness, so to speak. He wasn't trying to be somebody he was not, is really what it felt like. Whereas here, I think he realized maybe that Poirier is like, he is for sure the good guy in this matchup, right? If this is pro wrestling, Poirier is the baby face, like as clear as day, right? Imagine booing Dustin Poirier. Unless you're like from Ireland.
Well, they did. Dustin Poirier got booed out for the most part.
Those are like
throughout this.
McGregor fans. I think McGregor realized that it's like a clear, kind of separation here. So he wanted to maybe be the perfect foil to Dustin's like babyface persona. Not that Poirier has a persona. I think Poirier is being pretty genuine in his own right. But I think McGregor didn't want to be wishy-washy maybe about it and just wanted to dig in hard being the heel. But I'm with you that it didn't come off great. I mean, I'm all for like really mean trash talk. I think we can talk. I think he probably did cross some lines along the way, but like I'm all for like aggressive trash talk. I don't always like it when guys act like they're not going to fight. Like tell him you want to fucking take his head off. Like I'm all about that, but I'm with you that it felt a little forced from McGregor. I don't know if it made me less likely or less invested in the fight, but I was disappointed in the lead up because I feel like that wasn't McGregor's like best work promotionally speaking.
Yeah, not even close. I thought, yeah, again, it was just kind of corny, and Dustin had a couple of really good singers, leading up to it.
You know what I just saw on Twitter? Who the fuck is that guy? Is 5 years old now,
dude.
Like,
it's crazy that like,
yeah,
and even starting to talk about the fight, like 5 years ago is the last time Conor, like, again, Conor's always been relevant, but 5 years ago was when he beat Eddie Alvarez. His only win at lightweight, at least in the UFC, right? And now, obviously he fought Dustin these two times. The thing that I'm left with, and we'll talk about the fight in a second, but after this fight, the thing I'm left with, and we talked about this going in, I'm still wondering, is Conor McGregor an elite fighter anymore? And I'm leaning towards no, because although this fight ended with some sort of controversy, I have a pretty good idea that that Dustin is the better fighter. I think I've seen enough from these last two fights to tell me that Dustin is the better fighter. I can't see Conor jumping in and fighting any of these like just savages to get himself back into like the title position. So that's not to say that Conor can't work his way up to a title shot. That's not to say that Conor can't beat guys in the top 10, in the top 5. I just don't know if he is going to go that route anymore. So at this point, I really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's let me kind of pose this question to your point is like, is Conor elite or not? Obviously it depends on how you define elite, but I'm looking at the UFC lightweight rankings right now. If obviously this is a fight that is not going to happen at least anytime soon, but imagine Conor McGregor is not the megastar he is. I think the UFC would give him what I would like to call the Dan Hooker test. And like, if you can beat Dan Hooker, you're probably elite, or whatever considered, that upper echelon at lightweight. But if Dan Hooker beats you, you're still really, really good if you got to that point. But I feel like that Dan Hooker test, he's ranked 8th in the division. Like, if they were ever booked that fight, would Conor McGregor pass the Dan Hooker test?
Dude, a couple years ago, I would say
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let's just say they booked that fight for Conor's return.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the line wouldn't be close, but man, I think that would be a very tough fight for Conor. I think
because he's durable, shit like that.
Hooker's durable. He's got good cardio. He can take it to the mat. I mean, yeah, I really don't know.
But I think that's, like, to your point, I think that's kind of the separating line between that upper tier. And when I think about that, it's like, yeah, I think McGregor went from being, the beating he put on Eddie Alvarez 5 fucking years ago is like an all-time incredible win over like another guy who's a top 5 all-time lightweight, probably, in Eddie Alvarez. So at that point, McGregor, bullshit aside, one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, period. But now, I don't even know if he's top 10 in the UFC.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. I think at the very least, the aura of invincibility, like the whole Mystic Mac thing, I think that is. I mean, I can't say gone, but I think it's it is on its last legs. And again, that's not to say that Conor it can't come back and beat guys like Dan Hooker and work his way back up. I just don't know if he's going to anymore. You know, he's just it's like Conor's the biggest star in the sport by far, right? But he's only like we've only seen him in the last couple of years either A, fight for titles, or B, fight guys that are at the top of the division, right? So it's like for Conor to jump back in there and fight a guy like Dan Hooker, it just I don't know how much sense it makes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
that
it
fight
makes
wouldn't
perfect
happen.
sense.
That fight wouldn't happen. I don't think that's on anybody's radar. I'm just saying, like, metaphorically,
Right.
can McGregor beat that gatekeeper to
Yeah.
the elite? And I don't
No,
know
I
if he
agree.
can. Yeah.
So let's talk about the actual fight. I mean, again, I think Conor had his moments, just like he had his moments in the second fight, but largely Poirier dominated that round. Actually, what did you think about the 2-10-8 scorecards?
I'm fine with that. I mean,
Yeah.
McGregor got off kicks that didn't, I mean, they landed, but they didn't seem to have any effect on Poirier in terms of damaging strikes coming back. So Poirier or McGregor had some offense in that round, but not a ton. And then, yeah, Poirier was on top for 2 full minutes, raining down blows. And then if you account leg break, whatever, that's a fucking knockdown. However, whether Poirier caused it or not, and we can talk about that, that's a knockdown. So I think a 10-8 is 100%. I mean, he was very clearly close to finishing him at the end of the fight. Like, I think that warrants a 10-8. And
Yeah,
he was close to finishing him, like, just on strikes.
yeah, I didn't have too much problem with today. I thought it was reasonable. He landed big ground and pound. I thought Poirier landed on the feet. Again, Conor had his moments too, but another takeaway I had from the fight, I just like obviously Conor always has big power. He's going to be able to put guys away, but I don't know how much the power translates anymore at 155. I mean, dude, in these last 2 fights, he landed his best shot, I think, on Poirier, and Poirier walked through it. He ate them. So I don't know if it's just Conor doesn't have the power anymore at 55 or Poirier's chin is just fucking insane. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think he has the power to keep Poirier off of him. And then, I mean, it's funny because Conor, what did you say last week? Like his record is 19-1 because he doesn't count decisions and submissions, and then he jumps a guillotine on Poirier, which, you know, I mean, looking back, I mean, we could even said that looking ahead of the fight. I mean, Poirier's probably got a better ground game than Conor, and it just did not go well for him. Do you have any? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos, right? Do you have you pinpointed any spot in the fight where you think that Conor's leg was damaged?
I think I'm sure you've seen it. The coach Eric Nixick, his mom or something pointed it out. I think that's the most likely. So the video I'm referring to, at least, is right the last kick that McGregor throws right before the leg break really happens. He throws a body kick, and it really looks like it catches Poirier's elbow clean. And I'm sure that's happened to you, Kurt, in sparring.
Yes.
My very good my instructor, Kalen Bourne, that's literally how he blocks teeps, and it is terrifying even to drill
bad,
teeps
yeah.
because it's gonna fucking hurt the shit out of your ankle and leg. McGregor threw that kick full bore. I think it caught Poirier's elbow, and I think that is the most likely scenario. But even if it was a 100% freak accident, I think we're like missing the forest through the trees here, because that is part of fighting. Like, part of fighting is being durable, and if you snap your own shin, you lose. Like, that's not a freak accident. That means your body is not made for that as much as the other guys. I do think him throwing a bunch of kicks, that some of which for sure got blocked, contributed to that. I think the elbow block is the most likely answer, but again, I can't stress it enough. Even if it was just a freak accident, let's say his shin went from 100% fine, he steps back and for some reason it snaps in half. That means your body is not as durable as your opponent's, and in fighting, that means you lose.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think also, I saw the video of obviously Poirier after the fight referenced him checking the kick and then pointing at it. That could be a thing. I tend to believe that his leg was broken and that, I'm assuming that Poirier caused it, right? Because you got to think, like, your bones are so strong, right? Just to step back and snap a leg, it just seemed very weird. So I tend to think that it was broken from something Poirier did. Obviously, I saw the video of the elbow. I saw the video of the check. But dude, I gotta say, man, I almost feel for Poirier a bit. Because I think that Poirier obviously was winning this fight. Like I said before, I firmly believe that Poirier is the better fighter. But again, you don't know what could have happened in that second round. I think Conor was starting to get tired. Obviously, he was landing heavy shots on Conor from the top. But again, after this fight now, Conor and his fans, they're running their mouth. They're saying, wait till the second round, blah, 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 blah. I would have liked to see Poirier finish him clean. Or again, I would have liked to just see the second round. I think it's unfortunate, but I don't put that much weight on it. I think this was a legit win for Poirier. I hate that Conor got hurt. I don't want to see anyone get hurt like that, but I felt for Poirier a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I think I think you and I, it sounds like you're leaning the same way, that if the second round happens, what's McGregor going to do? Throw more kicks that are going to damage his feet even more? Like, he put himself in that position to have his feet hurt by throwing kind of like hyper aggressive kicks. So yeah, I'm with you though. Like, it would have been nice to see the second round and have like not that your leg snapping in half is not definitive, but have something where it's like, no questions asked, this guy is the better fighter. If Poirier goes out there, takes him down and TKOs him, something like that.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, I think Poirier dominated so much in that first round. I think he could have taken Conor down again and just stayed right in that closed guard position. I mean, he was mauling him on top.
I thought his ground and pound looked phenomenal. I thought McGregor's ground game looked poor. I think it's played out at this point, but there's a Gracie breakdown, Henry Gracie talking about the guillotine that McGregor pulled, and it's really like, it's a good video to watch, but his guillotine was super lackadaisical, like lazy with how he just kind of fell to the position. And now we've seen so much of McGregor on his back eating shots from the other guy on top that, I wouldn't mind seeing some changes, some technical changes in McGregor's game as he gets older.
Yeah, and again, it's a Conor McGregor fight, so obviously a lot of the talk, and again, Conor lost it in devastating fashion, right? So a lot of the talk is going to be about Conor and where does he go from here and whatnot. But man, can we give some goddamn props to Dustin Poirier? I think a lot of it was lost in here that Dustin Poirier is the winner, right? I mean, dude, he looked extremely good. I think he's the perfect foil for Conor because again, he's the type of guy that is just bite down on your mouthpiece. He talks shit when he has to, but dude, Dustin Poirier, we talked about it before this fight too. I mean, his resume is just insane. It's only growing, and now he has earned himself a title fight with Charles Oliveira, which is just such a freaking good fight, man.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Obviously, lightweight title fights are always like the best, it feels like, but this one especially, it's not. I would be shocked if it does over 1 million buys. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what kind of effect McGregor's had on Poirier's selling power. But in terms of in-cage action, I cannot wait. That might be one of my second most anticipated fight coming up, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, is number one Pitbull.
Oh yeah, can't wait to talk about that fight here pretty soon.
I know, a couple weeks. Yeah. I read somewhere, I didn't see the actual odds, but I believe Dustin Poirier is opened as a slight favorite over Charles Oliveira. But man, that's just two guys that have been in the UFC for so long.
Two guys that got kind of written off.
Yes,
sorry
exactly.
to interrupt, but yeah, they were both in the same position at one point, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Dustin Poirier's his run right now is insane. Dana White kind of alluded to their possibility of being a fourth fight after this. Do you have any interest in seeing a fourth fight?
None. None. At least maybe there could be a scenario that Poirier like wins the title, McGregor wins a fight in the interim, and then they fight for a fourth time. I could see that happening, and I guess I would tune in, but that seems like a stretch at this point. And like, but it right now, none whatsoever.
No.
I feel like I would be so sad if they did it a fourth time, because that's just so lazy on the UFC's part. Like,
Yeah.
have some fucking creativity.
If Conor comes back and wins a fight, and we could talk about who Conor should fight in a second, maybe a fourth fight for the belt has some allure. But dude, if Dustin goes out there and beats Charles Oliveira, and Conor comes back and is awarded a title shot, it would be fucking travesty. Because again, if you look at that division, all those guys, dude, they're fucking studs, man. Every single one of them. If he leapfrogs again, it would be a travesty. But, I mean, who do you want to see Conor fight next for his comeback?
I mean, I think the Nate Diaz fight
Yeah.
maybe makes sense. I don't think that's a super winnable fight for McGregor. I mean, you were talking about his power not translating at 55. Nate Diaz is real big now. So I think if we're talking, because I'm with you. We've been alluding to it. McGregor's probably not gonna just like go back into the shuffle at 155 and like work his way back to a title shot. I don't hate the Nate Diaz fight. However, I think that's a really, really risky fight. I've seen some people talk about a Tony Ferguson fight that I could for sure get down with. That's not like maybe a huge money fight for him, but I think that's a winnable fight for McGregor. And I think that's a credible opponent and an exciting fight in its own right.
Yeah, for me, I think I want to see the Nate Diaz fight. I think that one makes the most sense because, again, it's going to make a lot of money. They can do it at two different weight classes. It has no ramifications for a title, right? I like the Tony Ferguson fight, but dude, this rivalry is kind of sparked up again. But how about Rafael dos Anjos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's an interesting one. Those two men do not like each other.
Yeah, and what was the historic event that they were booked against each other?
That was the original Diaz fight. What,
When
196?
RDA broke his foot.
Broke his foot, yeah.
There's
And
always
pulled
that
out.
beef. RDA wants that. RDA would take that fight for 40 grand. Like that guy wants that fight so bad.
And dude, seeing the way that Conor got, ground and pound and controlled by Dustin, dude, at this point, man, RDA is a dangerous fight for Conor.
RDA is kind of like the Dan Hooker test to a degree too.
Yeah.
Like, if you lose to RDA, you're probably not in that upper echelon of fighters right now.
Yeah. I mean, last thing that we should talk about for this fight, do you think that Conor, and you kind of alluded to it before, I mean, how far did Conor step over the line with his trash talk? Because, there's a lot of opinions online both ways.
I think, like, if you saw my tweets, I think some people think I'm like defending what Conor McGregor was saying, right? Because I think him, and it's before the fight when McGregor was saying, I'm gonna kill you, like I'm gonna kill you in the ring. That's like a long ongoing thing in like boxing, for example, that you're not supposed to say that in sports because people actually do die. So it's kind of an unwritten rule that combatants don't say, I'm going to kill you, like you're going to die in there, because it's a serious thing and people actually do die in sports like this. So I think, he crossed the line there, and I think after apparently saying you're dead, you're done, like in your sleep, imitate, and like the tweets
where he's talking about his wife too.
He's talking about killing his wife and killing his kid. For sure, I think that's like too far and should not be condoned. And I think it's like, I think what is almost most disappointing is McGregor is better than that at trash talk. He's so much better. And this is just lazy shit. I will say though, like people like clutching their pearls, being like, he should be like fined, and like, listen, like he's not actually going to kill anybody. He's not like actually saying, I'm going to like take a gun to your family. For sure, he went too far, but everybody relax. Also, in the cage right after the fight, you got to remember McGregor has a microphone in front of his face and his fucking shin is in two pieces. Like, it was crazy that he was expected to say something that made any sense at that point.
That's the thing. It's like, why was he like
talking?
dude, I was wondering why the fuck he was like in the cage for so long. It's like, dude just snapped his leg. Shouldn't you have like, did you really need to get him on the mic that
was
badly?
crazy.
Or shouldn't you have? Because here's the thing: if it was any other fighter besides Conor McGregor, dude, he's on a stretcher and he's out of there ASAP. But instead, they got this motherfucker with a broken shin sitting there waiting to get interviewed. That was insane.
Honestly, I'm not a huge McGregor fan. For all the reasons we've been discussing. Credit to him for doing that fucking interview with his shin. I know it wasn't like maybe as gruesome as like Anderson Silva or Chris Weidman,
That's
but
pretty fucking gruesome though.
Yeah, like how is he just talking? Anyway, to get to your point, for sure the like I'm gonna kill you stuff. Let's not set that precedent that like that's okay to talk about. And I think it was lazy from McGregor, but also like I'm kind of the mindset that there is no line that you can't cross. But
my line is family. Don't bring family into it. You saw how ugly it got with Khabib, where you're talking about family and religion. Keep it to I'm gonna fuck you up. I'm gonna whip your ass. Blah blah. Whatever you want to say, right? Don't bring the family. Don't bring the religion into it. And I think that's the line that he crossed. But I'm with you, man. We don't have to like persecute him or anything. And
yeah, that's it. Like let him. He's gonna feel the pain of those comments because it's gonna hurt his bottom line because he's becoming a slightly less popular because of it, probably.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to the co-main event, dude. I gotta say, man, there was a lot of stars on this card, but for me, dude, Gilbert Burns might have impressed me the most. We talked about it on the podcast. We talked about it on the betting show. I talked about it with Daniel Vreeland. I did a podcast with him. I was so sold on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson just being a bad matchup for Gilbert Burns, winning this fight, getting a title shot next, and boy, was I wrong. Gilbert Burns fought such a smart fight. And that's not to say that, like, Gilbert Burns is not a smart fighter, but like the IQ he showed in this fight just shined through. He got takedowns when he needed to. I thought he got hurt a couple times in this fight, kept his composure. I was blown away by it. I think this is by far and away his biggest win. I don't think this was any sort of diminished Wonder Boy. I can't say enough good things about Gilbert Burns in winning this fight.
Yeah, I echo everything. Like you said, we were all of us so high on Stephen Thompson in this spot, but Burns, I feel like his strategy and tactics on the feet were really pared down. He had moments of being wild, and like you said, he got hurted a couple times, but he was really, I think, pared down. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He didn't want to do too much on the feet, because I think that's smart. That's where he did start to get in trouble, was trying to be a little over aggressive and do a little too much, but he really kind of narrowed down what he wanted to do on the feet. And then yeah, we haven't seen guys be able to put Thompson on the fence and actually finish clean takedowns. I think Woodley struggled with it a whole bunch, but other than that, like
Matt Brown,
Matt Brown, yeah, like way back in the day. And we all know how good Burns is on the mat. So like, I feel like all he needed was he had that one takedown in the first round, one takedown in the third round, and then he's just on top. So yeah, huge credit to him. His wrestling looked phenomenal. And if he can do that against a guy like Stephen Thompson, who is not a wrestler, but like we said, has been defending takedowns for the better part of a decade now, like, Burns can take a lot of people down.
Yeah, dude. And again, I think the threat of Burns' ground game kept Stephen Thompson very honest, on the mat where he couldn't explode and expose himself trying to get up because Burns is going to latch onto a submission or get to his back, really impressive for Burns. I got to say, dude, I think the biggest winner in the aftermath of that fight has got to be Leon Edwards. Because obviously if Stephen Thompson won this fight, I think he was going to slide into a title shot next. After whenever Usman and Covington finally fight, I'm really hoping that they get that fight booked soon so we can start letting this shake out because there's a lot of players at the top of this division. But I think that Leon Edwards probably waits for the winner of Kamaru and Colby. Who do you want to see Gilbert Burns fight next?
I would like to see him fight Leon Edwards, but I'm with you that Leon Edwards has been, he was essentially offered a title shot at the height of the pandemic last year. So he's basically been there. I think Leon Edwards might want to wait a little bit longer. that's playing hardball with the UFC,
I know,
which I don't know, might not always work out well for him. So I would like to see Burns fight Edwards. If Edwards wants to wait, for sure. I mean, we have much fewer options, right? Who is Chiesa booked against right now?
Chiesa's fighting Luque relatively soon.
I mean,
dude, I think a
Burns
Chiesa,
could fight the winner of them.
Yes, I think a Chiesa Burns fight would be fucking amazing. Although I do favor Luque over Chiesa. Yeah, I think that's a smart one. I know he called for Masvidal. I don't know if he gets the Masvidal fight, but again, Masvidal does need a fight though because he just got starched by Usman. So maybe your Masvidal.
I don't think Masvidal wants that fight, or I think he wants a bigger one. But I mean, the winner of Chiesa Vicente Luque for Gilbert Burns next does make sense in the rankings. Chiesa and Luque are 5 and 6, so I could get down with that. Like I said, what I would want is Leon Edwards, and then you have a clear number one contender. But we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. I think any of those guys. I just really hope they book that Usman Colby fight soon. I think you're in the same boat as me. Like, I'm fine with the Colby fight. I don't necessarily care if he gets there or not. I just want to see it booked. I just want to see it happen so we can move on with the division because there's a lot of dudes chomping at the bit to fight Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving down, Tai Tuivasa, dude. I think his performance, and not just his performance, but like his everything as a whole. I think, dude, he might have had the biggest moment of the whole weekend, or at least one of them. I mean, coming out the Spice Girls, knocks out Greg Hardy, who's like this ultra villain, puts him away, and then the celebration. I think he with the fans, he's doing shoeys. He did the hot sauce shoey. I mean, dude, again, it was like a 1 minute fight. Minute 7 seconds. So not a lot you can say from the fight, but I think Tai Tuivasa as a whole, the way he capitalized on this moment this weekend, one of the biggest stars, man.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm sure you've seen all over social media other people doing shoeys with him. The guy's cashing in. He's a fan favorite for a reason. I'm happy it worked out the way it did. I'm happy the good guy won. I
am too, man. I really am, and I think he set himself up to. Because again, remember he started off 3-0, and then he lost 3 straight, and now he's won 3 straight again. But I think he's set himself up to fight maybe one of these guys that are like 8 to 15 in the division. I believe maybe I'm trying to think. I don't have the rankings pulled up, but
yeah, I'm looking around for a fight for him. I mean, you could do
Marcin Tybura, something like that.
I mean, why not? I don't know if I want to put him against a guy that can grapple, but I think he's already lost to Sergey Pavlovich, who's 15, or Sergey Spivak, maybe. Man, I am slipping on my 14 and 15th ranked UFC heavyweight fighters. But yeah, I'm with that. I think a small step up in competition, but he's going to be fun no matter what. And he is perfect in this spot, like the middle of a pay-per-view, get some feel-good vibes going.
You know what was the name I liked? Tom Aspinall. That would be a fun fight.
Aspinall's much smaller, if I recall, right?
13, but Aspinall can bang on the feet too. I think that'd be a good one. Walt Harris could be a fun fight.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I just want to keep Tai Tuivasa around. I don't think he's necessarily going to be championship material. Who knows? It's heavyweight. Anything could happen. But yeah, okay. Tom Aspinall just beat Andrei Arlovsky. Yeah. I remember this guy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Keep him in fun fights. Keep him doing shoeys. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Irina Aldana gets a big win over Yana Kunitskaya. Dude, her boxing is super slick. I think we'd honestly be talking about possibly Aldana fighting for the title next if she didn't miss weight by 3 pounds, 3.5 pounds. That was the only blemish on an otherwise stellar performance.
Yeah, I think should fight. I think she should fight Germaine Durandamy, and if she gets past GDR, you got a title shot, and that's a fresh face for Amanda Nunes.
It is, and that fight I believe would be amazing. That's a really fun matchup. Yeah, Striker's Delight. You book that as a co-main event somewhere, and maybe even a main event for a fight night. Perfect.
Yeah, GDR, both those women I would say are 2 of the more exciting. I think Nunes is by far the most exciting bantamweight, but both of them, both strikers, big knockout power for that division, I would get all the way behind in a Irene Aldana and Jermaine Durandamy fight.
Yeah, agreed. Let me ask you this, Ben. Did you leave UFC 264 more impressed or less impressed with Sean O'Malley?
Maybe less impressed, or like, I mean, you can't talk all this shit about power, and then we talked about it. Chris Moutinho is a gamer.
Yes.
Still, he's a guy, a former flyweight. At least when I was watching him live, he was fighting at flyweight, coming in on very, very short notice, making his UFC debut. And yeah, one of my favorite tweets, I think it was Jonathan Snowden, I can't remember, tweeted, somebody tweeted out the stats that Sean O'Malley now holds the record for most significant strikes in a bantamweight fight. And also Sean O'Malley is now on a 6-month medical suspension because his hands and feet are so hurt. And the point is, how significant were those strikes actually if you couldn't put the guy away and you're the one that walked away with the medical suspension? So I know that's like a shitty thing to say about a fighter, but he's a guy I'm inclined not to like no matter what, just based on his personality. So yeah, I think less impressed. I still think he is inching closer and closer to being the Michael Venom Page of the UFC.
Yeah, I agree. I think
that was an MVP type performance, right? Like being so much better than a guy and then kind of not doing what you're there to do.
What did you think about the stoppage?
It was bizarre, but I actually kind of don't hate. We don't see accumulation stoppages like that in MMA.
It almost reminded me of boxing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very much a boxing style stoppage. Boxing refs will stop that fight if there's 1 second left, if they think at that moment you've taken too much damage. So I know people like hated it because there's only 30 seconds left, but you know, I bet Moutinho was real pissed that he now has that finish on his record, but I think he gained a lot of fans. People want to see him fight now for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely bought himself a couple more fights in the UFC. He made himself a nice little paycheck. I know he went on record saying that was life-changing money, so that's good for him. He deserved it, dude, taking that fight on 11 days' notice. And I think he did some good things in this fight. I think early in the fight, he was not moving his head at all, which is why Sean O'Malley was really tagging him up. But I think once he started to cut off the cage on O'Malley, he started to back him up. I thought he started to land some shots. I wish he kicked O'Malley's legs a little bit more because he was landing some kicks, and obviously O'Malley's had problems with his feet and legs before. So I wish he would have kicked his legs a little bit more. I didn't necessarily have a problem with the stoppage. The timing was a bit weird. I think he could have even stopped the fight several minutes earlier if you wanted to. I think he was hurt. I think he was hurt more in that fight at different moments than the actual moment that Herb stopped it. But again, whoever the referee is.
It was Herb.
It was Herb, but like the referee has arguably the toughest job in the business, right? Like he's seeing things differently than we're seeing things. He doesn't have the benefit of replay. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have that much of a problem with it.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it. And for once, Herb Dean maybe stopped a fight too soon, people are saying, which is bizarre. But I'm with you that like if you're going to stop it on accumulation, like you probably could have stopped it a couple minutes earlier.
So who's next for Sean O'Malley?
Dude, I know he asked for like Rob Font.
He's not going to get that fight.
Yeah, no. He was not scheduled to fight somebody in the top 15. He did not beat somebody in the top 15. If he wants, I assume they want him fighting a ranked opponent. You got to look at the bottom half of that top 15. And I don't think they're going to give him a guy like Cody Stamann. I would love to see that because that's a wrestler. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I believe Kyler Phillips has a fight booked.
He does. I don't know against who, but he does have a fight.
Paiva. I wouldn't mind seeing, you could see the winner of that against the winner of Kyler Phillips and Raulian Paiva. But if you look further up the rankings, it's like, no, those fights don't make a ton of sense, right?
Dude,
Jimmy Rivera.
Dominic Cruz, I think, makes perfect sense. Dominic Cruz can wrestle. Dominic Cruz can strike. He's got a big name. That's the fight that Sean O'Malley called for before this fight. I think that's the one, dude. You put that on like a pay-per-view main event, or I'm sorry, co-main event. I think it's fireworks. I think Cruz can push O'Malley in the ways that he needs to be pushed.
You would certainly have a storyline to tell there with like new versus old. Man, I would love Dominic Cruz in that fight, even
Yeah,
at however old he
I
is right
agree.
now, for sure.
It's crazy. He's not even that old. I think he's still only like 34 or something like that. You
The
just feel
knees
like
of
he's
it.
50. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
80-year-old.
Yeah.
All right, if we cruise through these prelims really quick. Actually, give me someone on the prelims that really impressed you. Let's do it that way.
Let me look down here. I hate to say it. A couple of guys that impressed me that like I was disappointed that they won. Max Griffin. I mean, we can talk about Ilia Topuria as well, but I thought Max Griffin, I never want to see Carlos Condit lose, but that was for sure, I feel like, the best version of Max Griffin we've seen so far. He got tired a little bit, but man, that guy fought at a pace for quite a while. And then I think the difference there was that when he touched Condit, his power was just like a totally different level. So I think that's a huge feather in Max Griffin's cap that, I don't know. We talked about on the betting show. I liked Condit quite a bit in that
I
spot,
did
but
as well.
Griffin proved me wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a really good performance from Max Griffin. I thought Carlos Condit looked really good too. I think he's looked good in the little resurgence he's had. But yeah, you never want to see Carlos Condit lose. Kind of sucks. But obviously, you mentioned it, Ilia Topuria. I thought fought a very, very smart fight. Obviously, Ryan Hall was trying to enter in the weirdest ways. Topuria never strayed too far off the game plan, never opened up too much, and then when he saw his opportunity, he finished. I think it's Topuria, kind of like we were talking about Tai Tuivasa. I think it's time for him to get a step up and fight somebody, at the bottom half of those rankings. I mean, dude, if you're looking at it, man, like a Ilia Topuria, Shane Burgos would be fire. Sadiq Youssef, someone like that. Bryce Mitchell would be a really interesting style clash.
Bryce Mitchell would be the one I would want just because
Yeah.
it's they're going to grapple for sure. I think real quick, my take on this on Ryan Hall here is that he got so used to people just being terrified of his ground game that when he's doing those entries, he just assumes there's nothing coming back. He assumes
Yeah.
they're just going to be fleeing. And then he did that a few too many times, and then Topuria saw an opening to land a clean shot and fucking blasted him. Um, I don't think Ryan Hall is done in the
I don't think
UFC
so
or
either.
MMA at all, though. I think he's gonna still be hanging around. I'm excited to see him fight like every time. I know some people fucking hate it, but he's a guy who's doing things his own way and has all these legitimate wins in the UFC. So stop shitting on him, people.
Yeah, agreed. Um, Dricus Duplessis impressed me a lot. Landed a beautiful counter. I think he's another one of those guys too that's kind of knocking on the door of shit. Maybe even you match him up with Brad Tavares, who also won in this card. That could be a fun fight.
Yeah, I could get down with that. I'm trying to look down. Even Michelle Pereira, I thought impressed me. Like he threw like one rolling thunder kick, but otherwise kept it pretty clean. Showed some good kickboxing, some good ground control against Nico Price.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I think Pereira himself has earned himself,
Step up.
step up.
Yeah.
Maybe a Santiago Ponzinibbio or something like that,
Oh
or
yeah.
Muslim Salikov sitting at 15.
That would be really fun, actually.
That would
Salikov.
be
That'd be
absolute
hopefully,
fireworks.
yeah. All the King of Spin or whatever, King of Kung
Yes.
Fu.
Yes.
See some more spinning stuff from Pereira as well.
Yeah. All right, let's put a bow on UFC 264 and move on to this weekend. We kind of talked about it before the show, but dude, I'm pretty pumped on seeing Islam Makhachev back in there. Again, everybody talks about Makhachev like he's the next coming of Habib. He's going to be the next champ. We just don't see him enough. I mean, prior to his last fight, he had what, like I believe, like 2+ years off. Came back, finished Drew Dober, sitting at 19-1, but he's fighting a guy in Thiago Moises who has talent, but he's also not ranked. Makhachev is sitting at what, like 9 or something right now? Yeah, he's sitting at 9. And again, that division is a murderer's row. But again, according to all, talk, a lot of guys don't want to fight this guy. Are you as high and as pumped for Makhachev this weekend as I am?
I think I'm pretty pumped because I'm curious to see how he does here against a guy like Moises. I don't think I'm as high on Makhachev as everybody else seems to be. I think obviously like his wrestling takedowns, like you got to watch that Arman Sarukian fight to see the breadth of Islam Makhachev's like wrestling technique. Incredible. His ground game, very, very good. I think the difference between him, why he's not the next coming of Khabib, or I'm not even high on Makhachev's like chances to become a champion, to be honest. He's not putting the beat down on guys the same way Khabib does. And honestly, like you look at the Drew Dober fight, Makhachev was like light years ahead of Dober on the mat. And the finish came when Dober got really frustrated and kind of tried to explode out of a position, and Makhachev wrapped up an arm triangle. But I would like to see Makhachev be a little bit more aggressive with his ground and pound, because what's going to happen when he runs into that upper echelon of fighters is because he's not hurting them on the mat, that when they get back to their feet, they're fresher and they're like less scared of being taken down because he's just holding them. Not to say he can't prove me totally wrong this weekend, because Thiago Moises, really, really, really good jiu-jitsu, and I think Moises will make him work from top position. Is that like, I think he's going to make Makhachev be defending submissions. I think he's going to make Makhachev really work for takedowns, and he's going to make him work to like hold him down actively. But I like Makhachev in this fight. I just don't think I'm quite as high on him as everybody else seems to be.
Yeah, I really like him in this fight as well. And I honestly, again, like he's not fighting anybody ranked, but I like that Thiago Moises, like you said, is going to be able to, I think, push him and make him work on top. We're going to be able to see some of his grappling. Dude, Makhachev is at minus 850, 700,
That's too much.
650 favorite. He's a
that
big
is way
favorite,
too
man.
much. So
Yeah.
Moises actually, he's 14. Moises is 14 right now, which I'm okay with.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is. What am I thinking? Okay.
But like, I mean, he's significantly lower than Makhachev at 9. But those odds. No, those. I'm not saying Moises is going to win this fight necessarily, because it's like grappler versus grappler. I think Moises is probably a little bit better on the feet, but man, I think those are crazy odds. Because let's look, Moises had that incredible straight ankle lock on Michael Johnson,
yeah.
beating Bobby Green when Bobby Green was like king of the Apex last year, right? Remember Bobby Green got really hot?
Yeah.
And then beating Alexander Hernandez, another like young, very durable guy. I don't know, man. I'm not saying Moises is going to win, because I don't think Moises can put Makhachev on his back or necessarily keep Makhachev off of him the entire fight. But that's it. I feel like it's a much, much closer fight than what we're getting. And that baked into that betting line, I think, is all this hype on Makhachev, thanks to guys like Khabib saying he's the best lightweight in the world. He's the best. They're building him up, which they should. It's their teammate, but pump the brakes on saying he's for sure the best lightweight in the world.
Let me ask you this. In my opinion, again, this is a guy that's ranked 9 fighting a guy that's 14. I think if Makhachev wins, I really, outside of a title shot, I think any guy in that top 10 range, I think he can get a fight with next, just based on, like you said, he's got Khabib behind him. He's got all this hype. I think he can get any of those guys in a fight next.
He was booked against RDA, right? They were booked in a main event, I thought.
Yeah, I think so. I think you are right. And you generally wouldn't see that. We wouldn't be saying that a guy that's ranked 9th fighting a guy that's ranked 14th. That, hey, he wins this fight and maybe he's fighting the number 3 guy in the division next. But I truly think we could see that with Islam Makhachev.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was booked against RDA. So, and RDA doesn't have a fight booked. So if he gets past here, yeah. Either way, I think he's like 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Co-main event, dude, I love it. Miesha Tate coming back after what? I don't even know, 5-6 years away. Her last fight was her loss to Raquel Pennington, UFC 205. Yeah, November 16th, 2016. Fighting Marion Renault. Miesha Tate is actually the favorite here, which is fucking crazy. It's like a minus 130-ish favorite. I'm always riding with Miesha Tate, but those odds are a little bit crazy considering she hasn't fought in 5 years. She looks really good on Instagram. She looks like she's in incredible shape. I mean, you might be getting Marion Renault at a great time. She's lost 4 in a row. Do you have? Let me put it this way: what are your expectations for Miesha Tate's return?
I think maybe similar to, remember when Uriah Faber had that little return, and I think he beat Ricky Simone and then maybe lost to Aldo. I think that was just it. I wouldn't be shocked if we see something like that. Peter Yan, sorry. Maybe a little bit more, because honestly, Marion Renault is 44 years old. Miesha Tate is 34 years old. And yeah, she has a fair amount of, like, she's a pioneer of women's MMA, so she has a fair amount of, like, competition miles on her. But I think we see her fight 4 or 5 times in the UFC. She doesn't really have anything to prove. She's like a former champion, obviously all this. I don't think we're going to see her fight Amanda Nunes again. Who knows? There's not a lot of options there. I think we see Tate probably fight a few times and then lose to like an up and comer and then retire again.
Yeah, I mean, that's respectable. I think considering her name though, man, if Miesha Tate gets a couple wins in a row, you might see her slide into a title fight just based off of name value and there not being a lot of options in that weight class.
She would still have to win another. I mean,
she'd have to win another fight.
They'd have to give her a really good stylistic matchup, because if you look at, not that bantamweight is phenomenal right now, but like, I don't like Miesha Tate. I mean, I could see Miesha Tate beating Yana Kunitskaya for sure, but like Ketlin Vieira, Irene Aldana, I think anybody that can crack, that can strike, I think is gonna really, really hurt Miesha Tate.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe, I don't know what she had a kid and everything. I don't know what she's been doing training wise away from competition, but she's not very old for like athletically speaking.
And
so
she took the time off to heal her body, heal her mind. So we'll see how it pays off.
For sure.
The rest of this main card at least is pretty solid. Jeremy Stevens, Mateus Gamrot is going to be a banger. Rodolfo Vera coming back. Gabriel Benitez, Billy Quarantillo is going to be a lot of fun. I like Montserrat Ruiz on the undercard. It's a really good card.
Yeah, I'm into all this for like a fun cool down from a Conor McGregor fight week.
Absolutely. And then on Friday night, Bellator is back. Main event between Juliana Velasquez and Denise Kielholtz. Velasquez looked excellent in her title victory over Ilima-Lei McFarland. Terrell Fortin, Matt Mitrione, the co-main event. Johnny Eblen is on this card. He's an undefeated prospect. Very good. Not the biggest names, but I do like that main event between Velasquez and Kielholtz.
Yeah, I think Velasquez will probably get that fight to the mat and do her thing, but I don't hate it at all. Bellator has a good flyweight division. Johnny Eblen for sure a guy to watch. Even a little bit lower, Cody Law, who's probably like not on people's radar because he's only 3-0, but was like a stud wrestler, Division II, I think, in college, and I think has a really bright future. And I could see him being like kind of a mainstay for Bellator.
I've rolled with him before at ATT.
Really?
Very, very good.
Really? Yeah, I could imagine that guy can grapple. Yeah,
very good grappler. So yeah, I'm excited about that one too.
That's cool.
All right, Ben. Before we go, we got to talk about the biggest news of the weekend. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic. I know it's been signed, but I'm not going to believe it until they actually step into the cage. But Nick Diaz coming back, and he's coming back to the right fucking matchup. Dude, I've been talking about this Nick Diaz booking for a long time. I think it had to be the right matchup. I didn't want to see him stepping in there against some young stud. He's going to be fighting Robbie Lawler, dude. 17 years after their first fight? I think it is just brilliant matchmaking. I think they're both at a similar point in their career. Obviously, Robbie Lawler is on the downslide. We have no idea what Nick Diaz is going to look like. But, dude, I am so fucking pumped for this. I am going to try my best to make it out to this event because I'm actually off that weekend. I'd love to see Nick fight. Are you as pumped as me?
I'm pretty pumped, man. You got it. This is like a treat for people that have been fans for a really long time. I think the majority of the UFC fans right now are not invested in Nick Diaz, probably not invested in Robbie Lawler. That's fine. I still think if you're going to bring Nick Diaz back, you kind of need to do it right. And I think this is a great spot. And I honestly don't hate that he's like in the middle of a really big pay-per-view. Like because I think the truth is that if you put him in the headlining fight of a pay-per-view, unless he has unless he is the B side, or it's a similar thing to like what they did with Anderson Silva, I think it's going to be hard to see Nick Diaz like carry a full pay-per-view, which is sad. But like MMA fans that saw them fight in 2004, most of them are not still watching MMA, and that's just kind of the nature of the sport. Right. So I actually don't hate that they're putting him in the middle of this pay-per-view, still gets the 5-round thing, which I have to imagine he like demanded make this fight 5 rounds. I think it's, like you said, great matchmaking. 2 like aging veterans with this like really long history going back.
Yeah, I think it's great. Very interesting with the 5-round
Right.
thing, but maybe that's the Diaz.
It's got to be
Diaz treat, man. I mean, Nick has always been a durable guy that puts pressure on, much like his brother, right? He's got great cardio. If you haven't seen it, now is the time to rewatch their first fight, dude. Their first fight is fucking awesome. Have you seen the lines yet?
I don't have it in front of me.
I do have it in front of me. Give me your prediction on what you think the lines are.
Oh, dude, that's impossible. I would bet it's like Lawler minus 220.
Ooh, no. Lawler's about a minus 150-ish. The comeback on Nick is like, no, you're not too far. Nick is like a plus 130. I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
Yeah, I mean, you have no idea what Nick Diaz looks like at this point.
Because you got to remember, dude, Nick's looked good lately, but he went through that point in his life where he was not looking too good. I mean, he was just partying all the time. So it seems like he's gotten himself straightened out. I love it. Also on this card is the Alexander Volkanovski, Brian Ortega title fight. They added Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy. I am all the way fucking hyped, man. But again, cautiously optimistic because who knows if they're actually going to make it to the fight. It is Nick Diaz.
I mean, yeah. It's Robbie Lawler makes those fights almost like, right? I can't think of any fight Robbie Lawler's really pulled out of. But
same with the Diaz brothers. They always make the fights too. So I think it's going to happen.
The thing is, it's still too far off. Not that Diaz will pull out of the fight, but like some shit will happen that will force him out of the fight other than an injury.
The good thing is, man, he doesn't have to worry about smoking weed anymore.
I have to wonder, legitimately, was that part of it?
Yeah.
Like his willingness to come back, because I don't know. If people don't know this, like tons of fighters, especially outside of the UFC where they don't get tested so much, like they'll smoke before their fight. They'll smoke leading up to the walkout, which is a common practice. So I'm sure Nick Diaz is kind of reliant on that at this point.
Agreed, man. I am excited.
Yeah.
All right. Did we miss anything? I don't think so.
I think that's it, man. All the big stuff.
I think that's all the big stuff.
There's jiu-jitsu on this weekend. I'll say that on the way out. Really good jiu-jitsu card this weekend. The road to ADCC.
Yeah, a lot of good fights.
That's worth tuning in if anybody has a Flow Grappling subscription for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Bellator Friday, UFC Saturday. Road to ADCC is on Friday night too, I believe, right?
I think it's Saturday. It's on the 17th.
Oh, is it Saturday? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, 17th. All right. So you got a lot of action this weekend. We'll talk to you all soon. Please follow us wherever you listen to the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you as always for listening, and we'll talk to you all soon.
No escape, can you step to this? Face the pain.